After an arrest in a DUI case, the police will often want to ask that person questions. This usually occurs after a blood test or after a breath test was given, and then they will take that person into a room, they'll read them their Miranda rights, and they will ask them a series of questions. We call this an alcohol influence report, or an AIR for short. And the police will ask a series of questions. When did you start drinking? How many drinks did you have? What did you have to eat? Are you on any medication? And all these different types of kind of generic questions. You don't have to answer these questions, but if you're watching this video and you have answered those questions, that's okay, because there are defenses to each one of those questions. But one in particular kind of nasty and trick question that the police really like to ask is this one. Did you feel the effects of alcohol? And what they'll do on the form is they will give you a scale from 1 to 10, and they will ask you, on this scale, at what level what number would you rate yourself as regarding the effects that you feel? And so they'll say a 1 is you didn't feel any effects. You had no effects of alcohol at all. At a number 10, they'll say that you were falling down drunk. This is something where you were stumbling around. You couldn't even stand up. You were just so drunk. You were so impaired under the influence of alcohol. And they'll ask you, circle one of these numbers, put your initials by it, and then they'll want to use that against you. They want to show that you were impaired because you were feeling the effects of alcohol. And so the problem with this test and this question is that really only these two numbers are defined, only the 1 and only the 10 are defined. These other numbers in the middle here don't really have a good definition. And so what will happen a lot is people will be confused. What does that mean? Does this mean the number of drinks? If I had 3 drinks, I'll circle a 3. If I had 4 drinks, it'll be a 4. When in reality, anything aside from a 1 is what they want you to answer, and that's a failure in their eyes. They're saying you were feeling the effects and now you're admitting it on a scale of 1 to 10. And so anything aside from a 1 is really a failure. And so people will often get confused about this. They'll think it's the number of drinks, or sometimes people, they just don't like to answer to the extreme. So they'll just pick a number in the middle. They'll just say, well, I was a 2, I was a 3. But they really don't know what that means because that number is not defined. When this test is explained by the officers, it's really often not defined at all because there is no definition for any of these other numbers. They're just asking you to estimate and sort of incriminate yourself. The other big issue with this test is they're saying, did you feel the effects of alcohol? Are you feeling the alcohol? Well, the effects of alcohol don't necessarily mean that you were impaired off of alcohol. You can still feel the effects. Alcohol can make you feel happy, it can make you feel outgoing, it can make you feel depressed if you're already in that mood. It can cause a lot of different effects. It can cause a slight sensation of euphoria. These are all effects of alcohol, but that doesn't necessarily mean impairment. And so this test is designed to be a little bit tricky, and they really want you to pick a number that they can use against you. So they can take this number and they can run it in front of a jury and say, look, he marked it, he was a 4. 4 out of 10. That means he was halfway to the scale and he was almost drunk and he was basically halfway and he felt the effects of alcohol to a number 4, so 40%. And they go through all these weird tricks and all these little tactics that they use to manipulate this number. But really when you break it down, you can understand how most people are not going to pick a 10 and most people aren't going to pick a 1 either. They're going to pick something kind of in the middle, and any number aside from a 1 is going to be a failure. Similarly, it doesn't matter what number you picked on here, the way that the question was worded, the way that it was explained to you is very important because you're responding to that question. You're not saying, yes, I was a 5 on impairment or an 8 on impairment. You were saying, I was feeling the effects, but that does not necessarily correlate to impairment. That is not necessarily incriminating. So it's very important, if you did answer this question, that you or your attorney or your public defender or whoever you're working with on your DUI case dives into that a little bit further because the prosecution is going to bring that out and they're going to want to wave this around in front of the jury if your case were to go to trial, and they'll want to point to that and say, this proves very clearly that this person was impaired, when in reality, a lot needs to be known more about how the question was asked, what specific language was used, what was the conversation when this whole AIR, when this whole alcohol influence report was being gathered, because that can shed a lot more light and that can totally invalidate the question. So if you want to speak with us and see how we attack this question or other questions that you may have answered, give our office a call. We offer free case evaluations. We're happy to meet with you. Thanks for watching.